My name is Arvind Mahabir Singh, and I am the operations director for Trinidad and Tobago Fine Cocoa Company. We're a new organization, as I said, that started a little less than a year ago, a little more than a year ago rather. And our remit is to process Trinidad cocoa beans into retail products, consumer products, right? And as well industrial products as well. To do that, we had to employ people who would have a lot of knowledge in the area, and this is where I would introduce our Mary Gray, who is our chief food technologist and chocolatier. Our remit started with a British national, right? His name is Ashley Parasram. He's our managing director. British national, born in Trinidad, right? Heard about great things about the cocoa industry in Trinidad, or about the quality of cocoa in Trinidad, and realized that while there was a lot of great cocoa, there was little exposure of local chocolatiers. Looking into it, we found out there were very few local chocolatiers, and of those local chocolatiers, you had sort of variable results in terms of quality, right? In Trinidad right now, I think we have probably more than 50 chocolatiers, right? But they're all kitchen scale, right? Small scale cottage industry type producers. Basically what we do, we take local cocoa from different estates and we produce cocoa products with it. Basically, in the 1930s, we were a large scale producer of cocoa. Trinidad was producing a substantial proportion of the worldwide cocoa production. At that point in time, we used to do as much as 35,000 tons of cocoa a year, right? Which was a substantial substantial percentage of world production. World production has expanded greatly since then. In many countries that have not produced or were not producing are now producing. The ACP countries, the African countries, the whole of the Caribbean, and some of the Far East, Malaysia, Thailand, Borneo, stuff like that, they start producing as well. They have much greater land masses than us, so they're way past us now. But in addition to that, the problem we've had is that our industry has fallen by the wayside in the interim. Mainly through two experiences. I think one is probably the discovery of oil, and the other one is through the witch's broom disease, which in the 1950s, I believe the 1950s to 70s, has almost entirely wiped out our cocoa industry in Trinidad, right? Subsequent to that, our industry is a shadow of its former self. It now produces around in the vicinity of 500 tons a year, which is minimal in comparison to the world production now. And it's really sad. It's even more sad because we are world renowned as some of the highest quality cocoa in the world. In fact, it has been said we're the highest quality cocoa in the world. The concept of our company is to take the highest quality cocoa in the world and process it using the highest quality of equipment in the world with the best technical expertise available. The phenomenon that we face in Trinidad and Tobago is the phenomenon of abandoned estates, meaning viable, usable trees that are not being harvested, right? Fruit that's falling on the ground every year and rotting on the ground. Someone made an estimate of as much as 70% of the cocoa that grows in Trinidad is not reaped. Right? I don't know if that is factual. I'm not an agronomist, but I believe him when he says it. There will be old growth trees because we have a lot of older estates. A lot of our large estates have been chopped up into much smaller estates with abandoned pieces in between. So I think that it wouldn't be very difficult, or rather it wouldn't take a long time. It'd probably be very difficult, but it wouldn't take a long time, and probably cost a lot of money to reinstitute these estates, revitalize these estates, and have them going. So I think it would probably not be difficult. And again, I'm not an agronomist. I'm just giving my impression of someone interested in the market in the area. I'm under the impression that we could double or triple our production of cocoa very, very easily over a very short period of time. A large amount of the land that would have been under cocoa cultivation before is no longer under cocoa cultivation because it's been used for housing, road construction, that kind of stuff. So there is a lot of attrition of land, but there still is an opportunity. We may never get back to 35,000 tons, but I don't see any reason why 10,000 tons might be possible, or 15,000 tons, right? Again, we are a very high value cocoa product. It's what we sell it for, what we get for our cocoa beans is far more than many get. I understand Venezuela is probably, so there are some regions of Venezuela that are probably a little bit higher than us, but for the most part as a country we probably attract some of the highest prices, right, if not the highest price. For our organization, it's because we're not an agronomy organization, it doesn't affect us directly, but certainly that attitude towards agriculture being a low-grade employment, right? That attitude affects supply of our raw materials, right? And is something that is of great concern to all in the industry, right? But to deal with that, one has to deal with that from an almost nationwide perspective. And I believe that the thrust should be to develop the jobs and the job descriptions, the job types, to give and allow more dignity to the employees who are taking up those jobs, right? My thought on that is greater specialization, greater training, trying to find ways to improve the productivity of each individual employee. Productivity meaning not necessarily their own personal one, but finding systems, methods, processes that achieve the job more efficiently, right? This would reduce the number of staff required to do a particular job and therefore allow for the job to be more highly paid. This is not about the product, but it's just simply about how we try to celebrate the differences in the areas in which we come. So we would say whether it came from Tamana, whether it came from the La Reunion estate which we're on, whether it came from Rio Claro, Tabaquite. We soon very excited to get some from Cedros, right? So we try to develop flavors from all different areas in Trinidad, so that we can then, it's about celebrating the differences in our local cocoa. A lot of chocolate is differentiated by a lot of different additions. You put nuts in it or fruits in it and stuff like that. What we hope to differentiate with is by region, the natural flavors. So in other words then, we focus on the purity of the product rather than trying to enhance it into something that it's not.
So one of our first products is, you see the packaging is like a steep-pan tin, pan, I believe. So what essentially inside this is a 5-gram chocolate. So it's filled with 25 5-gram chocolates, which is essentially eaten chocolate. And as we said earlier, the estate for this tin is Tamana. There's a little information here based on the processing. So we have a conching time, the roasting period, when the beans were harvested, that made this chocolate bar, as well as some details on the flavor profile. So this is a 50% bar. We have different percentage bars. We have a dark that is 70%, but we hope to introduce more percentages, so like a range we will soon be able to offer, but as of now we just have 50% milk and a 70% dark. But with time we'll be having like a 45%, or say at 65% for people who, you know, they want a little bit more cocoa or less. We will soon have those flavors available. And another product we have is, this is more catered for the chocolate industry, sorry, the portal industry or the chocolatiers. This is more industrial size that they would. This is a Kovichaba, which is 70% dark, and also the same feature as the tins, where we provide the origin, some roasting information, punching times, a flavor profile, and as when the beans were harvested that made these chocolate bars. So chocolatiers could buy these and to make chocolates, or people who work in bakery, chefs, so that they can make other products from it, like truffles or ganaches, even baking stuff. If I were to offer a 70% chocolate bar or these small 500 grams, I would the same 70% in this size. The only difference is that one will be tempered, one will be untempered. Tempering meaning the tempered material will be stiff and tinsel, like a nice shine as a snap. But this is untempered, so that it will look undesirable. You see the cocoa butter showing on top, but it's meant for the hotels, for the chefs to use and chocolatiers. So they don't really care about the blooms that are being shown because they're going to melt it down to make other products. But eating chocolate, we will temper it. So no difference in terms of the formulation. There's one stage has been missed, one process.
And this is what we hope to bring, or what we're bringing to the market. The ability to understand, and it leads to not just national pride, but it leads to regional pride, right? I am from Tabaquite. This is cocoa that's grown in Tabaquite. The address of this thing and the address of me is the same. And that's what we hope to celebrate. We hope to be able to bring that sort of pride into it, and hopefully that pride will be translated into greater productivity and greater expansion of the area in terms of the cocoa bean growing.